Coach, thanks so much for sitting down with us today. Obviously, a huge week with a lot of emotion. Is it kind of weird to think about that this matchup is being played for the first time ever here in 2025 with both of these programs that have, over 100 years of history, and it's only 2025 that this matchup is finally being played?
It really is. And when you look at it, and there's been so many people that have really done behind the scenes to really make this a reality. And I know this has been many, many years in the making. So very fortunate to have them make this a reality, and also a lot of gratitude for them making this a reality as well. I think it's really, really healthy, really, for the entire state of Arkansas when you really think about it. The two FBS programs coming, playing together, but playing it in Little Rock, the state capital, as well. So I think it's really healthy for the game, and it's healthy for really the state of college football, high school football in the state of Arkansas.
I know Sam Pittman has been asked about it quite a few times over at SEC Media Days, and even before that. Is this a matchup that he would like to see continue on in the future? And he's kind of said, I don't know if we'll play at War Memorial Stadium in the future. I don't know if we'll play Arkansas State in the future. Is this something that you would like to see continue? Maybe if it's not yearly, bi-yearly, something that you would like to see happen again moving forward?
Well, I know that scheduling presents so many challenges, and now with the SEC going to 9 games and all the different things that go into that. But I do think it's healthy. I think in the world of conference expansion and everyone kind of going, their boundaries are expanding, to be able to still have some in-state games being played that really is really healthy for your state, for your fan bases, for all those. So I would like to see us continue to play. I know that'll be a challenge, but I think it's really healthy, again, for both institutions, but really for the great fans of this state.
No, absolutely. Sam has also said, and I believe it was in Monday in his press conference, where he was on the record saying, look, we have everything to lose by playing this game. They have everything to gain. When you heard that statement, or I'm sure you've heard of it by now, it's been headlined and bulletin boarded everywhere. How do you feel about that? That knowing that that's how their attitude is around this matchup, and you guys, you really do have everything to gain.
Well, it's going to be a great challenge for us. I think we're 23.5-point underdogs. And I understand what we're up against. I was fortunate to spend 8 years in the Southeastern Conference, and I know the challenge of playing a Southeastern Conference team, but also a very talented Arkansas team. I think they've done a really good job of building their roster to compete in the SEC, so it's going to be a great challenge. But, for me, I've also been on the other side of where he's sitting, and I truly understand what he means by that. And we kind of go through the same thing when we play Central Arkansas. So there is something to be said about that, but I just know for us it's going to be a great challenge. We're definitely going to have to play our best football game just to have an opportunity to compete and be in it. But I'm excited to be able to see how our players react. 72 new players, 55 of them out of an 80 travel roster making their first trip for Arkansas State. How do they really respond to being on the road, being in War Memorial Stadium, a sold-out crowd? Now all of the things that go into the road focus with the crowd noise, and you can't let all the clutter and distraction. And really, once the game is here, all the hoopla and all that goes. You have to play the football game, so you really have to make sure you're focused on the task at hand.
How has that been, refocusing the guys on the task at hand? Because it can be hard when the entire state of Arkansas has had this game circled on the calendar for longer than just before the season, right? Since it was announced, there are so many Arkansans that have gone, man, I cannot wait to watch history being made. So how do you, as a coach who has been coaching for a very long time, how do you recenter those guys and focus them?
Well, I think having 72 new individuals in your program, they haven't heard all the things. But I think, you have to focus and you have to prepare like you do for every game. And it's not coach speak. This is the most important game because it's the next game. And, college football is really special because the regular season matters. So every game is important. But obviously, again, I can't stress enough the challenge that we have And I think when you prepare for an Arkansas team, it's really hard to really mimic. It's really hard to really kind of, how do I want to say, from your scout teams, we don't have a 370-pound nose guard. So you know what we had to do? We actually had to take two players, dress them up into one uniform, and then put them over the center so we could kind of manufacture, the strength and the size of a 370-pound nose guard. But, that's the thing that's really been the challenge for us is how do you replicate the speed of the game, the violence, the aggressiveness, the physicality of the game, the size that they possess for us. So all those things, just preparing for this game have been a challenge in and of itself. So we're more focused with that. And then obviously it's great for the fan bases. It's great for all them. But we have, as players and coaches, we got to make sure we're focused on that challenge and the task at hand.
You didn't really do that, right? Put two guys in a uniform, that's
Great
what we would like
visual,
to
though.
see, right? I love it, Coach. You talk about the new players on the roster, and that's something I wanted to ask you about because it's almost just the climate of college football right now. You just have to be used to, with the transfer portal and NIL even, you have to be used to turnover. But some turnover that you haven't had is in the quarterback position, and that's so nice that you've had someone like Jalen Rayner, who has been here for 3 years. And so what does that mean for you having a quarterback who, A, decided to be committed to the program and stay with all the talent he has?
Well, it's definitely quite an anomaly in college football. It doesn't happen very often when your quarterback is going into his third year as a starting quarterback. But he means everything to us. He really sets the standard by which we prepare. He sets the example. He's a great player that our younger players should want to emulate in everything that he does. But, as a coach, having that security blanket, that peace of mind that, he is going into his third year as a starter. And he's really kind of grown and matured into that role. And, the first year he was kind of thrust in that role, third game of the year. And then the second year he kind of went through the evolution of being a first-time real starter where your video now is on film. Your video, everyone's kind of studying your flaws, your strengths, your weaknesses, all that. And so then I think has been able to really take those 2 years and really use the wisdom and maturity in this third year. And, we really stressed to him and really challenged him as a quarterback to make the routine plays routinely. And we always talk about being a CEO quarterback, the individual that really owns the team, owns the organization, and he's really done all that for us.
There's been a lot of hype around Taylon Green this season, and obviously in the offseason going into year 2 under Bobby Petrino. Do you think this is a really good opportunity for him to showcase his talents and maybe even say, look, the best quarterback in the state might not be in Fayetteville?
Well, I don't think he ever looks like that. I know we don't look at that. He's had the opportunity to play on big stages, on the road at Ohio State, on the road at the University of Michigan, obviously in a nationally televised bowl game and all that. And I don't think you can ever look at that. You're focused on doing what you need to do to make your team play winning football. And I know on the flip side, what Jalen Rayner is to us, Taylon Green is to Arkansas. And he's a really talented quarterback. He can make plays with his legs just like Jalen. He's a high vision quarterback where he can scramble and throw the ball down the field. And I know their players believe him. You can tell by the way they center around him. So I think there's a lot of similarities amongst both players. But, from a Jalen standpoint, an Arkansas State standpoint, we never really look at it like that.
Oh, well, that's good to hear because I like that. That's almost that CEO mindset that you were
Correct.
talking about, right? That he has. That's good and probably very good for the rest of the guys to hear from that voice as well. Okay, we talked a little bit about him, but let's go back to the 72 new players, correct? Whew, that's a lot, and especially defensively, right? On the defensive side of the ball, I think I was reading in the game notes from your win over SEMO that there was 8 new starters defensively for you guys. How has that been for you to adjust to that? And how do you think those guys have come in and said, okay, we know we're new here, but we're going to take care of business?
It's been a process. And not only with all those individuals and we talk about the collective as one, but we have a brand new defensive coaching staff as well. So they're all kind of going through all the process and growing pains together. But they've really done a remarkable job, and the older players that we have in our program have really done a good job of really educating the newcomers on our standard, our expectations, our style of play. But as a coach, you can't assume anything. And so we've done more connection, more team building. We've won in the past. We've won now winning at a high level because of our connection, our toughness, our connection amongst each other, how well we play together. Well, all those things, the discipline and the details, and our players really understanding what winning football looks like. So as a coach, you got to make sure that nothing is under the assumption. You have to assume that they don't know anything. So it's been an exhausting process starting back in July of really trying to teach them and really to kind of see that come to life against SEMO. Obviously, we're playing a greater opponent in Arkansas and we're going to be challenged. But I thought we had a lot of growth associated with that victory over SEMO last Saturday night.
Where did you see that growth specifically? Because obviously a good win for you guys to start off. You take that momentum into this tough matchup with Arkansas. I know you said after the game that you wanted to see them get better in certain areas always, but what did you feel like maybe surprised you about this team or you really like to see in game one?
Well, exactly, things I like to see. And, I said before the game, we're going to find out who we are, what we are, and then what we need to do to get better. And the biggest thing I didn't know is how would we handle adversity? How would we handle things when they didn't quite go our way? And it didn't go our way the way the game started. When they score, they're up 10-7. They were controlling the ball the entire first quarter, and then we had a turnover and everything changed. And I think also with the football team is them understanding momentum. Momentum of a football game, and the really good teams never lose momentum, even when things don't go their way. And I thought we never lost momentum in the game. And then we were able to score 35 consecutive points. We forced 4 3-and-outs. And then the next evolution of the team, though, is I didn't think we started fast and we did not finish strong. And we always talk about playing to the standard. And we never play to the scoreboard, no matter whether we're up or whether we're down. Why would you ever let a scoreboard dictate how you play? So, I thought we had some individuals kind of play to the scoreboard a little bit. So we had to talk about them, about the value of a game rep, whether it's 1 rep, 10 reps, 15 reps, that's invaluable.
My dad used to yell at the players on the bench when they would look up at the scoreboard.
Yep.
He would yell at them. He'd go, "Don't look at the scoreboard.
I
no
could
matter
tell
if you're
by
up."
the look in your eyes you're a coach's kid, because that resonated when I said that.
Very much so, because I remember watching that and going, why do you yell at them for looking at the scoreboard? And he said exactly that. Never play to the scoreboard. It's good coaching, right? That's what makes a good coach. Coach, we talk about good coaching, and Nick Saban talks about rat poison, right? That all this talk and all this excitement can sometimes be rat poison for a team. I noticed some of your players came by your office and they were saying, we're ready to make some history, we're ready to do that. Where do you think that confidence comes from?
Well, I think you breed confidence by the way you prepare. The way you prepare, breeds that confidence. And, our players invest a lot in every game, not just the Arkansas game. They invested a lot in the SEMO game. Now it's being able to take that investment. It's all the ability to play fast. And that's where the challenge occurs, because the speed of the game is going to be something that they haven't seen. And again, that's those hard things that we spoke about earlier. That's hard to really mimic in practice, is the speed of the game. But we always talk about, the harder you prepare, the more that breeds confidence. It's that swagger on game day that as a player, you've put everything that you've had in terms of your preparation. And we always talk about when the time to perform has come, the time to prepare is past. And you can never get days back, so it's really taking advantage of those days.
Absolutely. What about War Memorial Stadium? How excited are you guys to get there and play in such an amazing environment? You hear stories about War Memorial, and I've heard the game is sold out, so it should be a pretty good environment come this Saturday. How's the team excited for that atmosphere?
Well, personally, and I think I speak for most of our players. I've never been to War Memorial Stadium. I understand the history and tradition and pageantry that goes in that stadium. Peyton Manning once told me it's one of the loudest venues he's ever played in. So all these things, you know, you look at the great games and the history, and then we do have some players on our team from Little Rock that played high school football in there. But really, I would say 95% of our team have never been there, and probably our entire coaching staff too. So I'm excited to be able to play in such a historic venue.
It's going to be such a great atmosphere. All of the hype, we talk about just all this hype and all of this, you know, what is the message to the team going into this week, going into that game? You know, we talked about how to kind of recenter them a little bit, but you talk about, I've heard you say it so much this week, it's going to be a real challenge. It's going to be a challenge. We have to focus on the task at hand. Is that some of what you're preaching to these guys going into this week and going into a game? Because it's almost like, you know, Goliath, the David and Goliath a little bit, as how they're phrasing this matchup in Arkansas.
Well, I think the biggest thing is when you play any game, and you play a game that obviously is everyone's looking forward to, is you have to control what you can control. And that's how you prepare on a daily basis, not only from, you know, a mental standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, making sure you're taking care of your body, you're getting the right sleep, the proper nutrition, you know, really being a pro when it comes to your preparation. We call that pride in our preparation. So all those things that go into it, I think it's, again, you have to focus on that task at hand. You can't worry about anything else. And then, you know, the mental toughness, the road focus that we talk about. Again, it's the first time this team has played, you know, in a crowd of this magnitude, of this size. You know, how do we handle the ebbs and flows of the game, that word momentum that we just spoke about, you know, our road focus, you know, all those things, plus playing a real quality opponent in Arkansas. So there's many challenges that exist.
How can this game, win or lose, how can it help you moving forward for you guys and your team specifically?
Well, I think you're always a byproduct of your experiences, good, bad, and indifferent. And we have to learn, you know, how has our preparation been this week? Then how were we able to apply that preparation to the game? And then how did the game go? How did we manage certain situations? We talk about situational mastery, all the different things that go into the game, the critical down execution, how did we stack up physically? I think it's a good gauge for me too, from a recruiting standpoint, of what we need to do to continue to move this program forward. So I think there's a lot of things, a lot of learning lessons that can come out of this game and moving forward.
You know, with the SEC expanding and then going to 9 conference games very, very soon here, how do you think that's going to affect college football? And how do you think it's going to affect some smaller D1 schools like you guys? I mean, it feels like there might be a trickle-down effect of, hey, we're trying to cut out matchups like this moving forward, especially with the expanded playoffs and possibly more expansion. It just feels like so many schedules are starting to cut out games like this. Do you think that's something that could happen in the future, and why, I guess, would you be against that?
Well, I think we're in constant evolution of the game right now, and we're trying to figure things out, and I think we're going to constantly be evolving, and I think there's going to be ebbs and flows of what happens, and I think the biggest thing is you have to have the ability to adapt and adjust. And I think we'll know more. You know, if we were sitting around doing this interview 5 years ago and you were to tell me kind of the state of collegiate athletics right now, I probably would have disagreed with you. And I think I speak for a lot of people that way. So I think you have to have the ability to adapt and adjust as this whole thing kind of evolves. I think that's the whole key to everything, even from revenue share to name, image, and likeness to conference expansion that's probably going to come up here again very shortly, to each conference, whether they're going to play a conference championship game or not. How many conference games do you play? Do they expand the college football playoff anymore? What does the group of 6 do now? You know, do they break away? There's so many things that I think over time will reveal itself. I think though, so for us, we just have to focus on the present right now and live in the present and make each day count and kind of just take it as it goes.
How would that affect your program if a game like this didn't happen? I mean, you talk about just some of the things you said, it helps with recruiting, it helps with being seen on a bigger scale, it helps with all of those things for you guys. I mean, to see it taken away, how would that affect you?
Well, I think the inventory of games affects everything. I think a lot of it is what it is. I think a lot of programs at our level, this is an opportunity for them to make some money, to not only invest in their football programs, but these games kind of keep the entire athletic department functioning and balancing the budget, so to speak. So, you look at, since I've been here, we've not shied away from, playing the opponents of the University of Michigan, the University of Oklahoma, obviously Ohio State a few years ago. So we've gone on the road and played in big venues, and we've had to do that really not just to support our football program, but our entire athletic budget. And so I think what happens now is your inventory of games become minimized, and now all of a sudden, that's part of the changes as we adapt and adjust to the ever-changing landscape.
It's ever changing, isn't it? I could ask you that question in 6 months and you'd probably have a different answer, right?
It could change, yeah.
It can change. Coach, let's focus really quickly, a couple more questions before we let you go, just on this game and I guess what it really means to this program. I know there's not many on either rosters that are Arkansans and are guys from the natural state. It's a conversation that you've had with them all this week, so they know how important this game is, right?
Well, they know what they're representing, and I think that's big, and I think that's, we have to do that. This is a monumental historical event in terms of both schools have never played before, and like Coach Pittman said, we don't know if we'll ever play again. So you really are part of history, and then so many people that represent our program that have come before us and this great state. And you really think about the state kind of shutting down and really kind of going to Little Rock for the weekend. I think it's a pretty unique environment, it's a pretty unique experience. The only thing I can really kind of go to is when I was at the University of Tennessee, we played Virginia Tech at Bristol Motor Speedway, and we broke the college football, or really the overall football attendance record. And so that was something that our players, will always remember. And I think this is something that everyone, whether you're from Arkansas or not from Arkansas, they will be a part of history in terms of being the first team from Arkansas State to play the University of Arkansas. Now it's our job and our responsibility to go play the best of our abilities and compete for 60 minutes. That's our obligation, and I'm excited for our fans. I'm excited for the entire state because I know it's been a long time coming.
You talk about Arkansas being 23.5-point favorites in this matchup. Do you think you guys are being a little overlooked with that line, or do you think that that's pretty fair just based on both programs?
Yeah, I don't really ever look at it. I'm so focused on what we need to do to play winning football and the challenges, and then how are we going to handle the mismatches, and how are we going to be able to adapt and adjust to the ebbs and flows of the game. So I think as a coach, you never really look at that, but it is. It's a great challenge, and again, I think it goes back to more the respect factor of what I have for their football program.
And I know you have a lot of respect for Coach Pittman and those guys. Coach, anything else you'd like to add?
I just appreciate the opportunity and really looking forward to, being in Little Rock and being part of history, but really just stepping back and really enjoying this opportunity that we have, enjoy the opportunity to compete, and also enjoy the challenge.